We joke a lot on this channel about people being black-bagged in China, but the reality is no joke. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Did you know YouTube has been secretly unsubscribing people from China Uncensored? I've been making a big push to get to 2 million subscribers. There's only about 30,000 more to go. But I've been hearing from a lot of you that YouTube repeatedly has unsubscribed you. I'm sure China Uncensored would already be much bigger if it weren't for YouTube's CCP-loving shenanigans. So if you're watching and you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you already have subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed. When we get to 2 million, we'll do a special live stream for you where we'll do something we've never done before. So again, hit that subscribe button. And now, on with the show. Now, you might think being in prison sucks, and it certainly is horrible in the US, but not in China. In China, prison time is a glorious experience that betters you as a human being. Just ask Chinese state-run media. In China, prisons transform criminals into law-abiding citizens. And they provide inmates with all the resources they need to excel once they're released back into Chinese society. Take Qingpu Prison on the outskirts of Shanghai, which also houses many of China's foreign prisoners. The prison has teamed up with a university to provide education to inmates. Of course, this likely includes Xi Jinping thought, but hey, a bad education is better than no education, question mark? It also hosts activities and things like jade carving, embroidery, and bamboo carving. It's like a summer camp. There are even Christmas parties. It's like a winter camp. In fact, it's so festive that the inmates at Qingpu just can't wait to share the prison's Christmas spirit.
This is the card Florence discovered, with a message inside which read, "We are foreign prisoners in Shanghai Qingpu Prison, China, forced to work against our will. Please help us and notify Human Rights Organization."
Well, that is Christmassy, only they're less like Santa and more like his enslaved elves. The Christmas card with the plea for help popped up in the UK in 2019, and it turned out that Christmas cards were just one of many products that inmates at Qingpu were reportedly forced to work on. There are actually so many accounts of forced labor in Chinese prisons that it appears to be a widespread feature of the Chinese prison system. And they're not kidding when they call it forced labor. One former inmate at Qingpu told The Guardian that if he refused, he would be punished, barred from reducing his prison sentence, making phone calls home, or worse. So serving time in a prison in China isn't exactly the educational holiday the Chinese state media have tried to make it out to be. Yet, there is another kind of confinement system in China that has recently come under discussion, and by comparison, it makes Chinese prison time sound like an all-inclusive vacation in Cancun. It's called residential surveillance at a designated location, also known as the RSDL system. It was actually introduced in 2013, which coincidentally is the same year that Xi Jinping officially came to power in China. While RSDL might originally have been intended as a niche system for those suspects who are not suitable for ordinary detention for one reason or another, under Xi's guidance, it's grown into a monster. Xi's raised more monsters than a Pokemon trainer, a kaiju wrangler, and Kris Jenner. RSDL is truly the stuff of Orwellian nightmare. For detainees, it starts out brutally from the get-go, as one Chinese woman named Wang Yu told the Spain-based NGO Safeguard Defenders about the day she was snatched. "I tried to phone for help, but before anyone could answer, someone had already broken through the door and was instantly upon me. The light from his headlamp flashed into my face as he spoke, 'Don't move,' or from the Beijing Public Security Bureau." After being black-hooded, detainees are taken away, usually to a black site. Many of these sites are located on the outskirts of China's major cities. At the black sites, they're put into individual rooms designed to completely isolate them from the outside world, where covered windows and the constant burn of harsh fluorescent light makes it impossible to distinguish night from day, or get a sense of the passing of time. Oh, and everything in the room is padded down and covered in soft material to prevent any suicides, because that would be sad if the CCP didn't get to kill them themselves. But detainees' only interaction is with guards and interrogators, who are constantly watching either from inside the room or from one of the many surveillance cameras installed to cover every angle. The daily routine in RSDL often consists of 3 square meals, an hour of exercise, and a solid 8 hours of sleep to keep inmates rested and refreshed. Just kidding, it's hours of abuse, with guards threatening the loved ones of detainees, beating them up, and subjecting detainees to stress positions. This abuse is supplemented by hours of interrogations, and depending on how those go, the abuse is adjusted accordingly. As one former detainee, Tang Zhishun, explained, during the interrogation sessions, if I didn't say what they wanted to hear, they would punish me. For example, they might not allow me to blink my eyes. They might force me to sit for long periods on the criminal's tiger chair, or force me to stand in my cell for the whole day, even when I was too weak to stand and would repeatedly fall down. At the same time, detainees are often forced to take unknown drugs every day. These mysterious drugs have reportedly made detainees' brains feel foggy, dulled their minds, made their muscles hurt, and caused blurry vision. So they are being subjected to torture, pure and simple. And it will go on until interrogators are satisfied with the number and nature of forced confessions from detainees. Once interrogators have the confessions they want, detainees are either released or transferred to a detention center to be formally arrested. That's right. After all this, they haven't even been formally arrested. By then, they might have been stuck in the hell of the RSDL system for up to 6 months, during which time family and friends have no idea where they are or what's happened to them. Hence the title of this detailed report. On the bright side, this is probably great for China's missing person poster printers industry. But before we start condemning the ones running the system and branding the ones that allow it to operate as horrible people, it's important to remember that RSDL is only used against those suspected of endangering national security, terrorist activities, or major criminal acts of bribery. So we're talking about hardcore criminals here, intent on spreading death and destruction. Supervillains like human rights lawyers, human rights activists, girlfriends of human rights activists, and most nefarious of all, Canadian coffee shop owners. Yes, if such evil figures were allowed to roam wild without having been tortured, China and the world would never be safe. Now, RSDL is not a new system. As I pointed out earlier, it's been around as long as Xi has been in power, since 2013, which feels like forever, probably because his leadership is a complex form of torture in of itself. But little attention was paid to the RSDL system in the first few years because not a lot of people were detained and disappeared into its black sites. But that has changed dramatically, with as many as 100,000 per year estimated to have gone through RSDL in recent years. 100,000 a year. That's about one every 6 minutes. And given the treatment that detainees receive while in RSDL, it's not surprising that they emerge physically and mentally traumatized, while some don't emerge at all. Back in May, for example, it was reported that a tech company manager named Xing Yanjun died while detained in the RSDL system in the Inner Mongolia region of northern China. The police informed Xing's family of his death months after he disappeared, but the family did not accept the explanation that Xing had hanged himself. It does sound unlikely that a detainee in RSDL died from hanging himself in a 24/7 surveilled room designed to prevent suicides, and not from mysterious drugs or repeated beatings that are generously handed out at the black sites. The suspicious death of Xing subsequently sparked a surge of discussion on the Chinese social media platform Weibo, with many people calling for an end to the RSDL system altogether, which is brave since speaking out against the government is a great way to wind up in an RSDL. RSDL is so reviled in China that lawyers and law professors have actually dared to come forward to call for an end to it. Criminal defense lawyer Hao Chen declared last month that he has never seen a normal instance of RSDL. One of Hao's clients ended up spending 2 years in RSDL, and now every time he visits the client at a detention center, they bring him out in a wheelchair. Howe called the RSDL system a scourge on his profession and said that he'd be relieved when it's dead and gone. A law professor at Sichuan University mirrored that sentiment when he called RSDL an evil system. Just as an aside, when was the last time anyone heard from Howe or that law professor? It's not just within China that stark criticism has been directed at RSDL. The UN Committee Against Torture has called for the immediate repeal of the system, and UN human rights procedures have repeatedly condemned the system as enforced disappearances, according to international law, and noted the heightened risks of torture within it. Of course, the UN isn't angry enough to kick China off its Human Rights Council over this, but thanks for the strongly worded letter, I guess. And besides the horror and amorality of a system like RSDL, it's also not an effective way to get the truth out of people. It's a well-established fact that torture is an ineffective interrogation tool because the application of physical, mental, and psychological pressure forces victims of torture to say or confess to anything just to end the painful experience, which for the CCP is exactly the point. So if it doesn't work in terms of bringing criminals to justice, the international community opposes it, and the Chinese people working within the criminal justice system hate it, why was RSDL not abolished years ago? It's because it still serves the interests of the ruling Chinese Communist Party. It has essentially become a system of state-sanctioned kidnappings that the CCP can use to intimidate and punish those that fight for a freer and more democratic China. That explains why so many legal scholars, human rights activists, and human rights lawyers pass through RSDL. If it's the case that bad guys get locked up when good guys are in charge, then it must also follow that good guys get locked up when bad guys are in charge. So, as I said at the beginning, YouTube is throwing every hurdle they can at China Uncensored. They actually would have run the show out of business years ago. The only reason I can keep making China Uncensored to cover stories like this is with your support. Head over to patreon.com/China Uncensored to find out how you can contribute. Anything you can give is a huge help. And as a thank you, I'll answer your questions at the end of these episodes. Today's comes from Jay. Soon there will be lockdown drones repurposed to tell these birds, control your soul's desire for freedom. Who could forget that one? Artfully dystopian. All right, so Jay is mashing up a few things here. First, during Zero COVID, when everyone was locked in their apartments, this video came out showing a drone saying, please comply with COVID restrictions. Control your soul's desire for freedom. Do not open the window or sing. Then there's this trend in China that I just did an episode on. Chinese youth pretending to be birds. So how will the CCP crush this youth movement? Why, obviously with bird-shaped drones launched by police on motorized skateboards. Just because they're brutal communists doesn't mean they can't be silly too. Thanks for your question, Jay. Thank you for watching. Once again, join me on Patreon by clicking that orange button. And here's a new video from my show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming, where I talk about news, politics, and philosophy through the lens of gaming. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.